Oh boy, he's talking? I didn't know he was talking today. So, for some reason, my stream last time, even though I'm changing the names, they keep getting saved as these titles, so I don't know how to change these. I'm gonna have to go back in, because I thought every day when I'm changing them, they're updating, but apparently it's not. And in here it still says Sunday, August prep, so I don't know. So weird. Anyway, can you guys hear me? Okay. Live. Can you guys share it in the chat? I forgot to. Please. Because I've been streaming Discord for the last 2 days, but I should probably just stream on here. Okay, we had some odds right here. So clearly it's mid-session, and we stalled 8-8. We kind of stalled right near like 8-6, 8-650. So right where the upper core ranges are. Usually you have to break at least 8-7 in these areas here to try getting a break into the zone. So there was a little bit of a stall here. Pretty big reduction sticks. I noticed that most of these sticks, when they reduced range, especially at these core points in the day, were around 8 to 9 points. So, and that definitely prevented us from getting these zone breaks as early as mid-session. There were some odds at 1248, 1250, which again, you can kind of see they're bringing it back to 6668. So these are very important points in the day and time frames, because we still have that risk of the 41 area that could be in play for the second half of the afternoon. I guess with Trump speaking, that could bring us to those areas a lot sooner. So we can see if they can at least try getting it back here for the second half, like closer to like 124, 130, mainly because they, even though they didn't quite clear the zone area at this point in time, I noticed that they still sustained 7-8 right here. Where was it? Or they still tested 7-8, but then failed to kind of close above that. So maybe we can look to see if they hold off the 6-6 range, try to get back and retrace at least this 7-4 to 7-8. I am talking. I feel like you can never hear me, so I think it must be your mic, or your, I don't know. I feel like anytime I'm streaming, you can never hear me for some reason. So kind of sucks that they stalled that, because that would have been a really nice break and very good odds of trying to get back to opening range today. So I feel like those odds are probably reduced a bit now. Yeah, that's one scenario. Or maybe they could also maybe they could also take this right back to the zone, but don't want to get it there too soon if they want to pin the close or something like that. It's 250% to hear me. I don't know. No one's ever told me they had issues hearing me, so I don't know. Yeah, a lot of people sometimes say that Twitch is a little bit harder. I don't know why, but I'm using the same exact mic on here. I could, you know what's funny is I have a Yeti mic and I don't even use it. I guess I could probably use that mic. But everyone complained when I used that and said that the headset was better, so. Let me see, I'll play around with the OBS settings. Maybe it's just, maybe I can just, pretty sure my mic is on all the way. Let me see. Desktop mic. Yeah, it's on all the way. Okay, so let's see if they can try getting back over these ranges here, guys, before, what time is it? Before 1? Like at the very least back over like 7.6, 7.8. Because those are some previous core support ranges. XOM had a pretty big reduction stick here too for 1250. I'm just trading this one today. Kind of stalled right around that 117.59. 117.60 is the overhead. And there were some wider range setups on this one that kind of stalled and now kind of stuck in multiple inside ranges. So I'd maybe look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if there's 6 bars already consolidating here over a 37-minute frame, this probably is stuck. Maybe between like 92, 93 minutes. What time did they hit highs? 10, 12. There's some stick highs here. 11. Okay, this is probably a good frame to watch. 61. 61 minutes. 8. Oh, this clearly has to negate because this is at some pretty big risk. Yeah, these would probably make sense. So maybe XOM is stuck until closer to these points in the day. Especially after this reduction period here. Because most of its odds earlier were okay when they sustained around these points in the day, but then they didn't really fully get back and retrace. Same with this point here. So I do think that this frame is very important that they not only hold, but at least try getting back to this area here. There's better odds around like 130, 132, 140 for XOM. Okay, let's go back to ES. All right, so let's see. What do you guys think? You think that they clear 7, 8 here before 1? These are pretty important spots. So I'm looking for a minimum of 6, 7, 8 cleared break by 1 p.m. So by 1 p.m. I mean 12:59. What do you guys think? Can you guys vote on that quickly? Because if they can get this over 8.2, 8.3, that would be even better. Obviously, if they can get this to 8.8, that would be the best case scenario. But I feel like a minimum condition would be 7.8, just to give us an odd of breaking post 1 p.m. around 104, 107. Can you guys vote on that quickly, please? So I do want 8.8, but I'm just giving a minimum condition. I feel like if they can get this area by 55, 56, then we have a pretty decent shot of trying to retest by 12:59. So let's see. That was essentially the point in time that we want to break, and specifically closer to here, but then you can see we had these disgusting reduction sticks. And there's a bit of a 3-bar up here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7th bar usually has expansions that occur, so this could actually expand us before 1. Please, market makers, take this over 66.88 before 1. So secondary odds were just before 1 p.m. and just after 1 p.m. at 104, 107. So let's see. I need this poll to finish so I can set another poll. Just quickly in the chat, yes or no for 8.8 breaks here by 59, not 1, 12:59. It would have to be 12:59, not 1 o'clock. That would be better in terms of continuation. Breaking at 1 isn't bad, but then it still gives you risk of being stuck in these ranges here for the hourly duration. So let's see what they do. XOM got back to where we needed it to. Hopefully XOM can hold 117 here before 1. Right, let's... Yeah, yes, 8.8, sorry. There was some slight... So here, this is another thing to kind of pay attention to. So you see how they breached this area here by like 2 points beneath 6.6? And then they stalled 8.8 by like 2 points here. You guys paying attention? This area here. Sometimes they can offset. Okay. So if that was the case, this would be like an offsetting scenario where they breached below, but they can break above. Does that make sense? So they breach below by 2 points. To offset the risk, they'd have to break above by 2 points, which nets you back to 8.8. Can someone write that in the Discord just so that there's context with that picture? Sorry. And I keep forgetting to send copy link, not image, sorry. Yeah, they'll probably do it within like the first 30 seconds, kind of like what they did earlier. Like they, remember how last time they did it within like the first 10 seconds? Look, 8,650 retest in the first 10 seconds at 1 p.m. So they probably will try breaking during this 30-second interval here. Let's see. Technically speaking, getting over 8,750 is enough, but... So where do they close the 59 period? Or what about 1 o'clock? So no breaks before 1. Did they tag 8.7 at least? No. Oh. What was that, final seconds? What are they doing there? We had a lot of minute delays today too. This is like the first, so they broke it up over 87.25 in the first second. So delays here can usually imply that they might have some volatility. There was some better odds of clearing closer to like 1:04 p.m. if they don't break during this point. I think with all these reductions that we had, it would make more sense that they'd probably break here. Do you guys know if we have any... Is there any catalyst happening right now in terms of auctions? I forgot to check. I know we have the rig count. We have a Fed speaker at 3. Where was Trump talking? Does anyone have the link? Why did I not get an alert for that? This is also tentative here too, so I don't... And some delays. So far 87.50 stall. Like I was saying, you probably have to break at least 87.50. And some reductions in range here. They closed it right at 117.01. That's pretty insane. Okay, so this can help keep XOM in play here. I wanted it to close at least at 116.99, 117.01 for 1 o'clock. It's not the best close, but it's enough to at least keep odds in play for this period here. All right, what about the 104? So I figured that the best odds were closer to 104, 107. I'm only going to set this one to a minute since it's coming up here, if you guys don't mind voting on that one. Disclosure, I voted yes. Don't copy me just because I voted yes. And I don't know if they will clear it, but I feel like at the very least they can try maybe testing this range at this point. Cleared breaks maybe closer to here, if only if they can test this range here at this point. So let's see. This can also be a reduction period too if they don't come back and reclaim or retest. So already giving some gapping sticks here. Do you guys see the volatility in the first 5 seconds? Wow. 104 implying some volatility here with some gapping stick ranges, and 1.75 breaks within the first 5-second interval. And if they start decreasing range, they'd probably do it at this point in time. Like if they wanted to really delay things, it would probably be closer to 104, 105. No, it doesn't look like they will because of the reduction at the 30 interval. Do you see this? So 1.5, 1.75. Reduction stick, probably the differential of getting it there. Oh, thank you, Adam. Do you see that immediate volatility between 104, 105 since they stalled? So that likely implies a delay. I think they would have had to have closed at least maybe over 8.4, 8.5 to have given that a better odd, but they pushed the window out here. But there's that volatility stick I was expecting at 105 if they don't clear by 104. Hopefully it's not as big of a range stick though that we had at the 1238 and 1248. Can we afford to have a stick like this or this during this time interval here at this point? What do you guys think? Post 1 p.m., can we afford to have mass reduction sticks of like 8-9 points before triggering 67.88? know. What would be an ideal area to sustain at this point? After 1 o'clock, and ideally before 1:12. Yeah, probably want to hold 6, 7, or 7, 7, 8, 7, 9. At least until we test 8, 8. Can we test 8, 8 and still come back down to 8, 8, or 7, 8? Yes, right? It would still reduce the risk. Okay, let's do one more pull here because this was the next odd. Closer to 107, 108. I had 108, but we'll just mark that. So you'll notice the difference this time based on whether or not they can actually close above like 8.5, okay? Pay close attention to this. Can we get more votes on that? I only set it to a minute. Please. They're battling with this 8.525 final seconds. They probably have to really push in the first 10-15 seconds here because I don't really like that close. So that tells me that they'll likely test this area, but I don't think they'll clear it. There it is, 688 tested at 108. This had the second highest odd after 104. And the reason why, actually, let me ask you guys, why do you think this would be a good time to break? What do you guys think? What do you notice about this window here? Next overhead's close to 9495. There's a lot of confluence there with those reduction sticks. There's the break of 8825 right at that 108 period. This was the better point in time if they didn't break at 104. I didn't really want them to stall too long. Why would this be a good time to break, you guys? Based on what? What do you guys think? Come on. What can help this period here? Hint, hint. Well, yeah, but not necessarily. And look, it's the exact same break and range here that we did. So what's the reason? I highlighted it. I wrote it. It's there. It's written. What do you notice about this point in the session? Hello. There's a very small window. Tiny, tiny window. There's a tiny window. What can happen here since we have a tiny window? And it's immediately after. Come on, I know you guys are not that bad at this. What could they do here? Since we have a little window, what's helping the odds here? What can happen off 8-8? You guys can fill in those blanks. I think we're getting very close to a 34-point break off lows. So this is a really important area in general, not just because it's a zone, but I think this is also exactly 34 points. Yeah, it is. Come on, you guys, answer that question. It's very, very, very simple. Yes. What do you have if you have a small window and you meet price on time? You can have, and it's a 34-point break, which is great. You can have continuation. Yes, they could continue. It doesn't necessarily have to expand, at least just continue. Okay? What kind of pattern is this? If you're going to expand, it's probably going to be based off the next 2 bars. I don't think that this is an expansion period, though. I just think it's an odd that they could have continued this if they opened above, closed above 8-8. So closed above, opened above, closed above, opened above, see if they close above. So think about it this way. It's not really giving you a window for expansion, but it's giving you a window of what are they doing here? After breaking 8-8, are they immediately rejecting it? This is their first time breaking it, right? Yeah, no, not expansion. You guys are thinking of the logic wrong. But just at least an odd of continuation, which can prevent it from doing what? Okay, they broke the 14 here. What can that prevent it from doing? Yeah, or stalling, right? Like that's a big spot to stall. You don't want to stall there. And it tried to immediately reject at 109, and then it had the odd at 110. Okay, and then pushed at 111, stalled out at 112. Okay. I feel like NVIDIA is always going up. Apple kind of stalled at 271, 273. NVIDIA is a really nice inverse head and shoulders pattern though. Okay, so does that make sense in terms of price action here, guys, at this point in the day? Like, you want to have a tight window of time range, just like we did around 245, 248, 250, because you do not want to stall. Do you know what I mean? Hitting that spot. That's not an area that you want to test it and then stall, okay? You want to test it and you want to clear. Does that make sense? We could have tested 7-8 and stalled. You cannot test 8-8 and stall. That's not really an area that you'd stall, because if you stall here, this could push you all the way back. Especially because they didn't clear around 12:45 and before 1, so the pressure's a little bit higher. So based on the fact that we did take out 8-8, oh, is it? Okay, that's good to know, Brendan. This is also 34 points off lows. So that's a lot of confluence here then. 34 points in both directions. So I would say that the odds of getting back to the channel or the 50s are probably off the table, but because they didn't clear during this period here, and I'll show you why, because if they had cleared a little bit earlier, we wouldn't have had this many points in reduction. So there's already approximately 22 points in reduction in range, okay? And they also had some reduction when they took it beneath 6-6 here, like let's say 12 points or so, right? But generally speaking, we could see a lot of overhead in these neutral areas. Do you see what I'm saying? Based on that reduction, and it should be around that 67, 12, 14, whatever, this area here. So could that limit us to how much range we can get in the session today, potentially? If that was the case? Because had they cleared us here, we would have had odds of clearing basically neutral ranges as early as like 1:15, 1 o'clock, 130, right? You get to these areas as early as then it would have made more sense that you could take out 67.22, 32, and potentially get back to the channel. So we did have some reductions already off the session. So I think they could be limiting some of the range. This would make it probably very important that they clear over this area by 130 and try to at least get over like 699, 6700, basically in that neutral zone. Okay, where does the neutral zones start? I want to show you guys something, okay? Because if they can get a 44-point break, then they could have an odd of getting the 22.5-point reduction that we had reduced, which would basically get you an odd of getting a retest of opening range. Okay? So far, are these odds implying that if they do clear the neutral zone today that we would take out our open? Well, it's maybe implying that maybe they stall by like a point or so. Like closer to like here. But a lot of that is relative to how early they can get over the 22-point reductions that we had. Which right now are currently linked to this 13-14 area. So soon as we get over this 9.2, it's going to keep increasing our odds of taking out 14, okay? And off these lower highs, once you get over that 9.4 mark, and remember how earlier I said those little reduction sticks are linked to 9.4, 9.5? Like these 9-point sticks right here. Do you remember this? Do you see that? Do you see how they're linked to these areas? Look. Can you guys see that or no? Like these reductions off these reduction sticks that we had back down here. Do you see this? So the really big areas I think to clear in this bear zone are like 9.2, 9.4, 9.6. And it would make sense too from that 22-point reduction that we had overall. What point do you think you'd want to clear this area by? Or which areas would you want to snap, basically? What zone would you want to snap to increase your odds of getting to the neutral zone for the second part of the session? So like after 130, 148. Which zone would you want to completely take out without stalling? And it makes sense based on these sticks. So just like how you had these, the bear zone, right? And the best area to get those stick breaks would be in here, right? Especially off 9.2, 9.4, 9.6, because those are the areas that were reduced off that 12.38, 12.48 period. I'm looking for some expansion sticks here, guys. There's also a nice 3-bar that's put up, so we want to see 66.94, 66.95.50 probably, and that's 66.96. Just to see if they can try taking out these ranges. So far, stalling 92.25. The window starts around this 121 period. So see if they can get some structure breaks here. We can maybe watch this on you could, it's about a minute and a half, so probably like the 30-second break then off here. And if they start stalling these ranges at this point in time, then I know that they could start doing what to PA? What would that start implying for price action? It could start turning into mm-hmm. Yeah, especially if they've already broken 34 points off lows and 34 from open, right? Then what could happen is they could start stalling because they know that technically speaking they don't really owe us much more than that unless they really wanted to give us some better structure breaks. Okay, so what happened to my alerts? Is this helping you guys for those that are trading this? This is probably where the trade gets a little bit trickier, to be honest with you. I think the trickiest part of the day is kind of done with, which was this period here. And obviously trying to see if we're going to sustain here, but this is going to be the second hardest period, I think. Just to see if they expand us or not. So we can watch maybe a 2-minute setup here. I want to see if they can clear these areas here in time. Let's see if they can get the breaks at 124 of 9.4. I didn't mark anything in between here, but we basically want to see if they can clear this bear zone as early as, I don't know if they'll clear it as early as 1:30, but that would be the most ideal point so that they can just get us out of here. Do we mind if we consolidate in the neutral zone this afternoon? No, right? That can reduce our range, but at least this will reduce our risk of downside, right? Like if they just take us up here. If they clear bear zone and neutral zone, so if they go above 6688, 6699, 6714, all in one shot, before 2 o'clock, how high does that increase your odds of getting some expansion-like scenarios today? Oh, perfect timing for him to shut up so that we can clear the bear zone. Do you see what I'm saying in terms of price action here? You don't want to stall 94, 96, 92. These are not really areas that you want to stall. So even though they stalled 92 a little bit here, they did test it in the first shot, okay? Because if they can take out the bear zone quickly, then it's going to increase our odds of getting more range and less, not necessarily less volatile PA, but maybe more odds of getting some more extended range. 66.99 being tested here at 124, 125. This is really helping odds of clearing neutral ranges here, especially on a bear zone break. And this is the exact bear zone sweep that we were talking about, because you don't really want to stall a bear zone. If they could sweep it, that's going to be the best case scenario. You guys are actually sweeping bear zone sweep. That's insane. So they want to keep it away, hopefully, from these areas. Right? So good job, LI. Right answer. The bear zone is not the area you want to stall. You definitely want to sweep the bear zone so that this can go back into not even a bull territory, but at least a neutral territory, right? And the earlier you sweep these areas, the higher the odds you have of getting back to opening range and potentially into the channel. Where do we want to end the week this week? This is a 44-point break here, guys. FYI. We just hit 44 points on that break. So if they can push here, this can give us those odds of getting back to that 14 retest. And these areas are now aligned with the 68-point break on today's session is exactly back to opening range, which I found insane. But this is what could give us the odds of getting back into the channel. We don't have to get into the channel today, but clearing this zone here and these zones here is what would give us the highest odds. Does that make sense, guys? Do you guys know what a clearance is, or like a sweep? Like this, like where they don't stall this area here. Usually we can get 4 bars, so let's see if they can. This flips at 28, so if they can get this above 6699 before 130. Start setting some conditions. What do you guys think? If they clear this bear area by 130, what could this mean for our odds this afternoon? Okay, on the report, what are the big areas that we were looking for if they were to break us down today? What were the big areas that we were looking for? I just want to see if you guys are on the right page. What were the big areas that we were looking for if they broke down? No. If they broke down 6733, what were the big areas that we were looking for? First. Come on. I know you guys know. Well, we know obviously that these areas could become in play, but what were the big areas that we wanted to try seeing if they can sustain? Okay, so that being said, are these pinnable areas into the close? Could these be pinnable areas into the close if they don't start breaking them at this point in the day? Specifically these spots here. Okay. Are these pinnable ranges for the session in general? Yes. Okay, so think about the time of day it is, okay? 130 through 136 is approximately mid-range from morning open till session close, right? So if so like your median point between 9:30 and 5 is around here, right? Like the 1:15 period, which is why it was pretty important that they try bringing this back up into range. So the first 15 to 30 minute follow through, right, can help you predict your session close. Okay, so if they cleared here ahead of 1:15, that's good. What would you want to do here? Specifically around 130, 136. At least to give us odds of not being pinnable. Okay, which areas are pinnable? Do you guys know what pinnable means? Or they could just stick price there, close it here, right? If they close the session around 66.99, 66.88, 67.10, 67.12, do we have much range remaining for the session today? No, we don't. So, and considering this is a continued 3-bar, 1, 2, 3, we have a lot of risk for Monday, Tuesday. We probably want to at least get back over that 14 mark, okay? And you can kind of see the risk here. I highly doubt that they'd bring this back to 8.8 today, but at the very least, if they can at least get it over these neutral spots, especially before 2, I would say, then at least it gives us an odd of getting, you know, some pittable ranges closer to like 18, 22, you know, 32, 44. I really would love 44, but I'm not sure if we have enough momentum to get there today. That would also be the same thing as getting an 88-point break, by the way, off lows if they did something like that today. 67.44 is also a pretty big area for us from the past. And that would take us to the channel, which would give us better odds of digestion. But I don't think we need that. I feel like just to give us at least a good, healthy reset, getting back to opening range today would be good because it's also core ranges. So like closer to like this area here, like 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, which would be our 66 to 68 point ratios. And I think because they broke 34 points before mid session here, like before 115 or 130 when they came and broke, it could give us odds of getting like the 33, 34 point extensions. With obviously the conditions that they can clear these 44 point ratios pretty soon. So far, we've been able to slightly close above. Okay, so 9,950 is the overhead. They closed at 6,700. So I think these odds are still favorable, but probably have to start moving pretty soon. It's not really an area that you want to stall at 6699. And what I wanted to see too was off overnight highs, because I wasn't really fully paying attention. So these areas here. Oh, so this is probably 128 points or so. Oh wow, you guys, that's exactly 128 points from these ranges. How come no one mentioned that? I didn't look at that this morning. Off those stalled structures overnight, or yesterday real time, around that point in time. So half of 128 is 64, which kind of gives that same. So maybe we could have odds as early as around that 230 period to retrace OR, but I feel like for that to be the case, they probably have to start clearing this area soon, because what zone can we digest in the most? What do you guys think? Which zone area gives us pretty high odds of digestive price action? So I just want to see these areas here. So 6705 has some confluence from here. Same with 6706. I'm just measuring an inverse, like off the highs. I want to see which areas. So this is now like the 88 point break here. Okay. I want to see which areas are aligned, because this could give us It's like the 18 and the 16 spot. Yeah, there's a lot of overhead around this area here, like especially around 04, 02. And they stalled a little bit around that 3.6. Those odds seem closer to after 2 o'clock just because of where they stalled and when they stalled highs yesterday. Yeah, that would make sense. We do usually have odds at 138 too as an extension, so we can kind of watch for that. Also considering we had a minute delay today too. Like, you remember how we broke at 1 versus 59? They could do those negation sticks like immediately after. So there's a, can someone write this? Like lots of confluence around 67.04 and then the 67.13 area along with 67.16 to 18. So I feel like if they don't get to this area here before 2, then we could get stuck in the neutral zone. Which zone can you have the choppiest price action in? So these are, I know this chart's messy now since we're working in it, but which area here from this whole zone could have the choppiest price action? So let's take a look. So from here to here, which area here has the choppiest price action? Really nice retest here at 3.8. This isn't exact, but whatever. No. Which area, which zone here would have potentially the choppiest price action? And think of it from a color standpoint. The colors are obviously supposed to help you. Yes, okay. So between technically here, right? This area here. Okay, so there is some confluence with these ranges today. 67.04.75. Well, the neutral zone technically starts above 9.9. It's just I consider the orange areas bear neutral, where bears still have control, which is why you want aggressive sticks around 02, 04. So this kind of PA here at 3.8, 3.9. These are the minute delays, guys, that we were just talking about. Market had some odds of like the minute delay sticks since they had the slight stalls back in here at 131, back in here. Really good stick at 3.9 above 67.03. There's a calculated overhead around 04.75, so let's just mark that because that was what I just calculated. So maybe see if they can try getting some stick breaks here. This is the area that you definitely want to clear to reduce what? Two things. Taking out 67.04.75, especially since they had a reduction period here between 130 and 136, could do what for us? What could this do for us before 2 o'clock? Do you guys remember why this area was calculated, or did you guys forget? Why is this area here calculated from what we just looked at? What? Snack? Why is this area around here calculated, you guys? Specifically around here. And why you would need breaks over like 6703.50. The answer's on the screen. Why are these areas so calculated? Why would you want to see some good structure breaks here? What are these areas linked to? We discussed this 5 minutes ago before we broke these ranges. No. Well, yes, but no, that's not what we're looking at. Hello? It's on the screen, you guys. Come on. Oh my god. Well, for starters, these areas here failed weekly opening ranges. Okay, so clearly there's a lot of confluence here, but this is 66 to 68 points from overnight. Like, very, 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 very basic calculations, okay? From overnight what? XOM broke these 117, 14, and 18 areas on time. Overnight highs, okay? So think of the logic here. So if you're breaking these ranges, and they're very important areas in general because these are bear neutral zones, so these areas can imply what? What do these areas imply sometimes? Or what can they imply? And also we open the week at 67.78, so there's also the confluence around that 67.10 and the 67.12, just so you guys are aware, okay? These were big areas for us off 128 to 132 point ranges, but I also want you guys to see why they're also aligned to this week, because they're linked with weekly opening ranges too. Yeah, those areas can imply volatility. Do you really want to stall a bear neutral zone? Could you technically give bears back control here? So I just want to write down that level because it was 04 and 0475. XOM getting the exact breaks we need at these points here. So we should start seeing some cleared breaks after 140. I'm just going to delete these because this was the turnaround time for XOM. And I would expect that they would probably have a very similar frame. So last time it took just a few minutes, so I'd imagine it might be the same. Yeah, and what's one thing that we still have on in favor for us right now based on these points here? Time. Okay, so we were able to enter the zone here, not before 1, which kind of sucks, so at least we're able to enter it just after 1. What would you want to do here ahead of 2 o'clock, you think? So we're already in the zone. We obviously don't want to go back to 8 before 2, but what would be an ideal area to break before 2? Or at least try getting to. Like, I feel like by 2, all we have to do is close above 9.9. But if we could take out these ranges before 2, even if they want to take us back to 9.9, that would really help our odds. Well, I feel like we already hit the minimum, to be honest. What do you think the minimum is? Yeah, that 0375 to 0475 is probably the minimum. I don't think you technically have to hit or break above that before 2. So we already met that condition. I would say that that condition is met. But what price point would you want to close at, and what area could you break at that could increase your odds? So think about it from like an odds perspective. And I can already see the small stick reductions because they know that they don't necessarily have to take it much higher before 2, and they could technically close it here. And also, based on where they closed at 1 o'clock, then, and how they stalled a little bit beneath here, like you see here how they stalled by like 2 points, that could give it an odd of back testing the zone here and just kind of keeping it net neutral for 2. I learned lots this morning. Have a great weekend. That's good to hear. Okay, which areas would heavily reduce your odds, especially after hitting 6705, 0475, but then stalling? So we haven't closed over 0475. You do have to close over that to get continuation here. The highest close we had was, even though they did test 0475 and 05, the highest close they had was 04, okay? Which area here would put you at major risk if they closed it back beneath, or not even put you at major risk? How do I explain this? Which area here would give you higher odds of having sideways pinnable price action in the zone into the close? And so far it looks like that's what they're doing based on where they're stalling and where they retrace this back to. It already looks like that's the case. I can already tell that that could easily be the case. Right back to 88. 6688 being tested here ahead of 2 o'clock at 150. I just want to see if they can try holding the line here. Since they never closed over 88 before 2, they could just reset the period again, okay, and try having a closing range around here. I would prefer maybe closer. They don't necessarily have to close above 99. That would be best for odds, but even anywhere in like mid zone around 94, 95 is probably fine, just to avoid some of the volatility risk that we could now face. Let me see where they hit. 850. This is increasing odds of keeping this pinnable in the zone for the last 2 hours of the session today. Because if they break it back here, especially after stalling these orange ranges, I usually call these areas like you're playing with fire, because you could still break here, and then if you stall here and you don't get quite here, this could still increase volatility and have those bigger reversals come into play. So I think holding off of 8688 here before 2 is going to be pretty important, and then at least to see if they can try retracting it back over like 9496. I think this is 17 points almost. Yeah, it is. So is the zone 17 points here? Yes, it is. Do you guys see how calculated these areas were at 0475? Okay, off overnight highs. And the reason I was saying pay really close attention here is because the overnight high could be linked to what could that be linked to? Nobody knows what the overnight highs could be linked to for real time. Shocker. Nice, Brendan. That 6704.75 is pretty huge. Overnight highs could obviously be linked to real-time highs, okay? Or real-time lower highs relative, I guess, to where you're stalling. So how could you correlate this though to time versus price during these periods here? If this is linked to overnight highs during real time, how could this be potentially linked to these real-time highs? Do you see this? So these are linked to here, but this real-time period here, just want to see if they have like the 8-8, which I think is that 9-6, so I think 9-6 is important. What do you guys notice here in terms of this? What was this window here in terms of this? When did they come over these overnight high ranges by? Yesterday. Pay attention. I'm teaching you guys a time technique. I never teach time techniques. Not like this. So if you actually care to listen, then pay attention. What point in time was this? So what do you guys think? What would be an important window for us today in relevance to these areas here, especially considering they stalled this range overnight and are currently stalling it in real time today? Let's go back and take a look. So we had really big structure breaks around our 203.05 windows yesterday. I remember this, and then they stalled at our 206.07, and then they couldn't really sustain. I remember this around this period, and then they had that structure break at 230 and then stalled. Remember they stalled at our 236 flip yesterday, right here, and then we had these reduction sticks. So how important is this time period today in relevance to these price points in real time that are linked to overnight highs? Do you see the correlation of time and price in correlation to highs, real-time highs, overnight highs, real-time highs, lower highs? Okay, so this period here is so important that at the very least you close over 9-6, okay? And ideally, try to clear what? What would you want to clear here? Just to give you some better odds. So maybe let's measure the exact range from these exact points here in time. Let's see. Let's measure the exact points here. So, and that's off, look, it's off our 67.66. So that's not a coincidence. This was off our 130, which we knew that we didn't really get the best breaks today. And then when they finally cleared right here, 67.02, and this beautiful bar that we had yesterday right here, 67.0675. So when you do come back and take out this 02, 03, 04, ideally what price point would you want to break here just to increase your odds, especially for our 2 o'clock window? No. It's right here, 67.0650 would be the ideal area to clear if as soon as that 67.0475 is taken out. And there's some odds here if they break by 2 that they could start extending through that 204, 207 window. Okay, these are, I think the minimum condition is that 0304. And based on that stick that we looked at off of 6.6, it was close to 02. Like this candle right here. Are you guys looking? This right here. Do you see that? So what advantage do they have here if they're clearing this area here, let's say at this point in time? So 67.01, 67.02, 03. What's the advantage that they have here? And you probably ideally wanted to hold that 9.2 to 9.6. So that makes sense why the 9.2 to 9.6 was also a big overhead in today's real-time session. This is looking at it from another way, okay? But because we already had measured those spots based on reductions, but that also makes sense based on these ranges here from those points in time. So how could this help our odds? What could this do for us? Let's set these to the right spots. What do we have to work with here, guys? Think about it. If you clear these areas here, it's the same exact thing in correlation to yesterday. On a 66 to 68 point break, it's actually kind of insane if you think about it. What could you do by 2:04 p.m.? How could this increase your odds? And if you do this by that point in time, then you have odds to take out these real-time lower highs, okay? Because this is in correlation to these lower highs from overnight. Does that make sense? Which gives you an odd of retesting those intraday highs that they failed to do yesterday. Do you understand the logic? Think about it. Are you guys thinking? These areas here, okay, think about it from like a, I don't know how to explain this. How am I supposed to put this in words? This area here, okay, is a real-time area. This is linked to real time, okay? We failed overnight highs based on this, okay? They didn't get back over this high, correct? Okay, so if we break this area here, it's not time or price, it's not the differential. No, it has nothing to do with that. It's logic, it's dynamics. Okay, what is that called? It's logic. It has nothing to do with that. It's the logic behind the trade, okay? Listen closely. I don't know how I'm going to explain this. This is why it's so hard to teach these techniques. This was in real time. This is in real time. This breaks this real time range. You have high odds of clearing this area here that they failed to do back in like overnight. Do you get what I'm saying? It offsets like the odd of failing and making a lower high like they did here. Okay? Does that make sense? It's kind of a logic-based scenario. It's not... I don't really know how to put that in words. It's like, that's just how I understand it. But it's like the relationship to time and price based on where that price point is, based on the range differential, based on the time that it's doing it at. Right? There's like a, yeah, exactly, like a set relationship between the two things. Right? Because of the point in time and price this is, the type of price action that occurred here. So yeah, basically that's the word I'm looking for. This type of price action based on what they did here and the range that they're breaking here and the time that they're doing it here could imply that they'll break the lower highs of intraday session. Okay? Which is something that they failed to do overnight. They failed to break the real-time high points overnight after failing those structure breaks. Does that make sense? Which in theory, that was just like a failure of like, I guess 7-8 or like weekly open or something. Yeah, exactly. But it's a pattern correlation that's based on a calculated range and price. Okay, so them breaking 66 to 68 points from real time range, especially ahead of time. That's the aspect here. So that 6706 we just talked about, I bet anything it's going to be breaking at this 204. And the spot was 6706.50 or 75, right? That was the exact range. I think it was 50. Look at what they're doing at 204. That's actually insane. 6706.50 testing at 204 p.m. is extremely calculated. Okay, so let's document that. 6706, sorry. So that condition being met could help give us those extensions that we had. I know that's a little bit advanced, but this is very specific. And that would probably be the only reason why we have those odds of turnaround at 54, 2 o'clock. Even though they brought it back down to 6,700 and 6,699 at 2, that's fine because they knew that they had the odd at 204. So condition being met at 204 can help keep this in play through. I think the period that we stalled at yesterday was our 230, 232 period, correct? So it would make sense that the period we cannot stall at today is probably going to be similar to here. But the area that you'd have to have the most relative strength in and the point in the day would be when. No one's going to teach you guys how to trade like this, by the way. So I would just listen because I'm going to not be around one day. I'm not going to stream forever. What areas would you want to break here? At what point in time? Think about it. Probably between 204 to 212. Okay, so this is a very important period here to get back to those targets that we had off the report, which are very much in line with yesterday and overnight highs, okay? Everyone is on the same page? Breaking these areas at these points in time can give us odds of doing what? What could this give us odds of us doing? Yeah, because it gives us good odds of breaking this structure here by 230, 236. Does that make sense? Do you guys understand that logic? And that's what we had failed to do yesterday. I remember that vividly because we failed, and I obviously timed it yesterday, so I remember. But we had failed to clear the zone yesterday. Remember that? When they stalled? Do you guys remember this? So yesterday's session, remember when they stalled core areas at this time and they never made it to the zone above 6, 7, 8 at these points in time here? Okay, so I would say, and this is when they started stalling, it was at exactly 136 or 236. That was the exact time of day yesterday. I remember that. And then they brought it back down, and then they just consolidated, and then they had that sell-off once they stalled 6-8, bringing it back to the channel. So this is going to be a very important time for them to start probably clearing these neutral zones, okay? So I want to see if that 210 stick here comes back and try. So you can see that 207 or 208 tried. I want to see if 210, 212 tries breaking this 0775 and trying to close over that to give those odds of retesting, because that's what will give us the odds of potentially retesting these neutral ranges as early as like 230, 236, because if they can do that, then our odds of getting back to OR increase. Otherwise, if they start stalling here, this is what could keep us limited in terms of range on the session today. Does that make sense? That's when we could start figuring out, well, oh, okay, maybe they're just gonna stall us or not give full range. So far they did close above, so this can still keep odds in play, but they are reducing it just a little bit between that 208 to 210 period. Oh, that's nice. I love when there's fake accounts of me. Can you guys report this, please? I'd say though we did a really good job, you guys, of even just capturing the low range and trying to get a really good understanding of the kind of potential close we could get today. I really hope they can take us back to 6720s, because that's going to be the safest thing for us to do. Or even getting to the channel, but I'm starting to lose hopes that they'll get us back over 6733. But we'll see. 212 getting that retest of 6706.75. So we just want to see if they can at least try getting some of these breaks over like 08, 10, 12. I didn't mark 10, but 10 is calculated. These are really calculated price points that I put on the report last night. And sorry for issuing that so late. So let's just see how much range they can get here in time. How are you guys doing today though? And be honest, what did you guys trade? How did you guys trade this? I would think that everyone should have at least tried along off 5.8 to 6.6. If you didn't capture this, at least between 6.6, 6.8, 7.1. Those were definitely the areas to look for some long setups. I knew that we had risk here. So, okay, another way that we could look at this is the range that they sustained from taking us all the way down, since we did have odds if we broke this area here that they could take us down to the channel. The way I was looking at this is maybe this would give us at a minimum like 13 to 15 point breaks. And that's the only reason why I was thinking they could get this back like over, you know, 2.2, 2.3, 2.8. But even off like opening range, like the only reason why I was thinking, oh, maybe they could take it back to the channel. But I feel like the 2:30 to 3 o'clock period would have to be pretty aggressive in the neutral zone for that to even be the case. Did I really yell? Oh yeah, I did. Did I yell? Was I yelling? Was I yelling? My the caps kills me. No, I did. I used all caps. I probably put it in caps because I wasn't on the mic. And wanted to make sure. I said cover if short. Yeah, I was yelling. I think it was just to make sure that people didn't fuck up. So 920, 918, 921, that would be right back in this range in here. Oh, hi, Creaser. You did what, like a gold long? Gold is, it held really nicely off our spots. Where's the, why do I keep losing that template? Where's that gold template? I don't know where it keeps going. Oh. Weird. How did I lose it again? Where did it go? Oh. Maybe it was this and I... What did I do? No. Oh, here it is. This hold here off 3,982 was huge. So... But they stalled. This thing needs back over. I think we have some calculated areas around 40.21 on my other template. Like, I'm pretty sure if we pulled up... What was it? Because we had... Hold on. I think it's on this template. Okay, when we looked at GC, we were using like the 83 point metrics. Right? Yes. Okay, so do you see this? Are you looking? Can you see that? There, use around 83.9 points on gold. You see how it's kind of stuck in this window? Okay, you're not going to get any breaks until you get over that. So I remember off the top of my head, it was like 40.21, 40.22, 40.25, something like that. So off these structure breaks, you basically need to get over 40.22. That's probably why they were stalling there a little bit. This big break right here with volume is good over those price points. So this is something that I would note, because that means that they are trying to break back over these price areas here. And then that's what could give you the breaks to 40.58, which I think is what I'm looking for on my other template. Yes, do you see the correlation? Like 40.56. On a calculated range on GC, it's like 40.58. So that little break right here, I think, could give you that extension, and that's what would take out this area here. And then if you look at it from here, like 40.65, 40.71, 40.75, 40.81, until you can get the structure breaks back over 40.96. These should be all linked with our 4100s, okay? And like probably these candles right here, this candle high and this candle break. Do you see that? Especially if you get the structure breaks of 40.56. Like if you measure this off 40.56, it should get you basically back above this disgusting area here. Okay, like back over this candle here. 40.56 should be linked with this. Do you see it? That should be linked with this. Do you see that? And with this high. So mark 40.56 in the, but the 20s are what you need to break basically. And today, and we have a flip date on this on the 10th, so, and then this essentially is what could get you back like this, like that. So 43.09, 43.09 I think is what could get you the retest of these highs. Anyway, hopefully that makes sense. They're starting to stall here a little bit. 67.08, 67.09 tested. It's the 10 area that we have to kind of break. And there's some reduction here. This is where price action, guys, can get very sticky on ES, so just be mindful of that. Because in general, these are pretty tough areas to trade when it comes to trading the index. Okay. Yeah. Did any of you guys trade XOM today? XOM was such a good trade, and I feel like none of you guys even traded it. And it was a 1000% return, by the way. And I talked about it yesterday into the close, and this morning first thing, like the first 3 minutes of open. And I feel like barely anyone even traded it. And this was such a clean trade. And we already discussed going back to 117, 118 yesterday. I still have the monthlies on this one. Nice. It's kind of been stuck here though. We'll see if it starts breaking. It had odds around this point of the day. It kind of got stuck. XOM's usually a late day trade anyway. Well, I feel like the lower volatility ones are a bit easier. Like this one, Bank of America, were pretty good in the first half of the week. Yes, you could roll. You guys, I might take a bit of a break here. Even though we have a big window coming up. Do you guys want the screen on? I just want to leave my desk for a few minutes. I'm going to mute myself, but I can leave this on. Just, these areas in general are important because they're big areas. So one final recap, so you guys don't do something stupid. These are pretty big areas in general, even off. Okay, are you guys looking? These are the 256 point ranges off highs. So at this point in time, we want to stay above 66.98, okay? That's a pretty big area for us to try sustaining. That's for starters, okay? Off these lows here, okay, we already broke 128 points, so we really needed to break 6668, just so you guys can see the correlations here. This is why holding here would have been a bit better. So the range differential here is about 30 points, okay? And if we're looking at this, that would be like the top of the zone, 6733. So just so you guys have an idea. And then from today's real-time open, which was 67.2350, these areas would already be breaking the 13-12 point ratios. Off lows, we're already hitting past 55 points. Okay, off overnight highs, we already discussed that these would be in the real-time highs. These would be breaking the 66, 68 point interval. So you're getting the 66, 68 point breaks right here, which off real time, you can already see these are very important that they sustain. You see like the 34 point, 32 point breaks here on the sustainment above opening range. That's pretty important, especially off real-time highs. So off real-time highs, what they did right here, guys, is, do you see that? That's a 33, 34 point hold right here off real-time highs. So that's really good, because then it implies that they're trying their best to get it back there. And in general, usually when there's only about 13 to 12 points left, which these would be 12, 13 point breaks, that would be taking out all these neutral ranges. Off of yesterday's midpoint highs, we still have a bit of room here, and these areas are aligned with 67.16, 67.18. That's why I was saying earlier, if they take out the neutral areas, I think we have some confluence around the 18 to 19 range. So just keep that in mind. Okay, and off of 6.6, 6.8, these would be 44 point breaks. Okay, so I know it's not off of lows, but these are still very calculated off of 6.6, 6.8. So off of 6.6, this is a 44 point break. Okay, off of 6.8, this would be a 44 point break. So they're still very important areas in terms of price and time. Okay, do you see that? These are 66, 66, 66, 66, 68, 44 point breaks here off lows. Okay, and if you measure off the actual higher lows that we had here, you can kind of see how they're sustaining. Off the closing range, you have to kind of close over 67.10. Off 6.8, you need breaks of 12. Okay, which basically is this big overhead here anyway. And then I think when we looked at this from just the daily chart, from session open to session close, we figured that the 44 point ranges were right around 67.20. So it would make sense that there's the overhead there. Same thing with 18. So you can see the confluence off opening range and off lows, and same thing with the highs. These would be linked probably closer to the top of the 67.28 area, which is very close to where they had stalled those lows. So from yesterday's session, and then this area here is going to be linked to the top of the zone. So off of yesterday's close, we do have some odds of getting back to 67.31, 32 today. Do you guys see it? From here, and even off of session open. So just before I take a break, because I'm not sure how much they're going to move this here in a second, but these areas here, guys, are linked to 333132, okay, off of yesterday's close and today's open. So, and then linked from highs is how we could have that odd of getting our 67.39, 67.40 areas, which again are from the report. But a lot of this is going to be based on how much range they take out during this 2 to 3 o'clock period. Specifically 67.08, 9, 12, 13. These are also 66 point ranges from these structures here back to these opening closing spots, so they are calculated. Okay. think these areas are also linked to the 128 to 132 point ranges off these highs. Yeah, they are. So today's open is linked to this stall here from the 5th. Okay, so that's some more confluence if you guys want to write that down. Off that lower high from the 5th at 6857. And I think this is why I figured that these are probably the max areas for the week. So if they take this back 132 to 128 points, like within that range, that's linked back to a weekly OR. I don't think that they could do that today's session, but just so that you guys can see where the confluence lies, okay? So this week's highs, okay, are linked directly back to the weekly open from the week before, okay? And this range in here is pretty close. This is why holding 6650 is probably important, because this opening range right here, do you guys see that? That could have broken that 128 points in range, and that's where I think that volatility would really increase, okay? So if they can get it back, yeah, do you see how there's like, so off the high range from that bar and off these mid sticks from these bars here, these 13, 14 areas, they're also aligned with these spots at like 60, basically our weekly core support that broke, that 6838, 6844, 6841, that area, 6842, is linked to these ranges here at 6. That's why I had them in the report. That's why 6713, 08, whatever. That's why these are such important areas, because if they break, can one of you guys, can you write that in the Discord, Freezer, or even on here? Izzy thinks that if they can retrace a minimum of 6713.14, at the very least, it could give us odds of getting back to 6840s by next week. Okay, because it could give us odds of getting back into the channel and breaking off 132 to 128 points in range. Obviously, the best case scenario would be to get back over 6730s, but I think those odds would only be the case if they can clear these neutral areas before 3, meaning we have to get above 67, 13, 14 before 3 o'clock so we can try getting back to some of these core ranges. Most ideal areas to close in today are going to be around 67, 22 to 33 area, with slight odds of getting entries into the channel close to 3.8 and 4.4, but I feel like those odds are a little bit reduced. Kind of depends on how they act at this 12 and 13 area, especially around 230, 233. So let's see here, because this is a very big time of day. 230 breaking Izzy's 67.14, and we're breaking the neutral zone right on time. Guys, that's a big stick right through the exact spot that we need it to. This is the exact area that we have to break, an exact point in time, so that we can have those odds of getting back to 6722 and potentially 6733. Do you guys see that range on that stick? Calls are up 150% now, so you can definitely take some off. The good thing is they're doing this at 230, meaning they have odds to expand here. I would expect those 6718 areas to be broken. These were the next spots above. It was close to 6718.25. I wouldn't sell all because it's 230 and they're breaking, and they took out 14 and closed above it, and they're taking out 18. Because remember, yesterday we stalled at 236. If they did the inverse today, which I think they're going to do, what could they do as early as 236? Think about it. What could they do as early as 236, especially if they took out this break, which look, we have this, that's insane. We have this marked at 230 to take out this point in price. What could they do by 236? Quickly. Or as early as 236. Yeah, they can try getting back to 67.20, 67.20, 21. Okay. If we can get back to here, then there's an odd of getting to the channel. Okay. Especially if we hit these areas before 3 and around 230 to 236. 67.19 being tested here. Usually around 1950s, where the bull zone enters, close to 2.1. This is a little too low. That's a really good structure break here before 236. Can you write that in the chat? Izzy thinks that we could retest OR as early as 236. XOM getting some good breaks here too now, just in time. Perfect point to get back to these ranges by. Contracts went insane. I picked these up at like 30 cents or $1.30 now, so you could definitely take some off. Yeah, it was. And I feel like not many people even appreciated how clean this trade was. They're breaking here, guys, ahead of 236. So yesterday they stalled, okay, at 235, 236, which is what caused us to have that volatility and downside. So them doing the inverse today and taking out opening range at this time is extremely calculated. It's what we talked about back in here at 204. Okay, especially if they hold this area and clear before 230, which they did. What do you guys think? Do we test OR at 230? I feel like if we test OR at 236, you guys owe me something. I don't know what you guys owe me, but you guys owe me something. Because that would be pretty insane if they actually did try testing between that 236 to 238 window. I did have an odd that they would test closer to 250 just based on the range, but I guess we'll see how this goes. And this is a pretty insane break. Let's vote on that. Let's get some votes in. I think we try triggering at least 672 250 during this window. If they clear here, there was some odds around, where was it? Closer to here. There's a lot of confluence around these areas here today. And if they break at this point in time, that's what could give us the odds of getting to the channel. So that's what would put 67.44 in play. 6722 being tested, guys, right at 236. This is a very calculated point in time and price for OR to be reclaimed or at least retested. 6723 highs so far on that stick. If they clear during this 1 to 3 minute interval, this is how we could get an extension on the session today. That is pretty insane. High of day retest right at 2:36 p.m. Them breaking 250, that, like I said, that I think that's enough. They don't necessarily have to take out OR, at least 2250. 2250 close at 236. If they clear by 238, we have odds of getting to 63, 67, 31, 33 at a minimum, potentially 38 to 44. I accept gifts in bars of gold, you guys. I want gold at 4K. So I do think that core to core odds are gone, like going to the 70s is probably off the table, but I feel like the channel is still on the table and potentially those 50s, especially if they break as early as now. Okay, so let's just see. If they can take out 50 here at 3.8, our odds are pretty favorable, okay? They're kind of stalling here a little bit around 2.5. They'll probably do it like 5 seconds late. No, they did it. Wow, they did it final seconds, guys. That's insane. Odds in play for channel ranges today, guys, off that break. This should give us an immediate break to 2.5. Next range here is 2.8. That's perfect timing, guys, for time and price. They would take this right to 2.7, 2.8. This is where we could see some really good stick clearance breaks off. I did take some SPX because there were some really good odds that they would clear that off the 67.30s. Look at these range breaks here. These are insane. Did you guys capture that? No one's gonna help you guys capture stuff like this in real time, trust me. These are really good trades to make if you're actually listening. And don't cover. Like I said, if you covered, you're covering a little too early because they had really good odds of getting over that high of day based on the overnight logic. So it didn't really make sense to take your full position off there. Okay? Thank you. Those SPX trades are actually going insane on this break. There's this channel break, guys, to 3.6. And they made a bit of a 3-bar here, too. This would be the 4th bar. So if they expand to 3.8 here, I would say that the 4.4 to 4.8 could be in play. Wow, they are going to get 67.44, guys. That's insane. 67.44 in play with odds of getting to 67.52 and 58. I do think that getting to the opening range of previous week could be maybe potentially, depending on how much range they get to by 3 o'clock. Like if they can get to 6744, these are the exact areas we talked about, though. That's insane. That's the big spot. These are huge trades on SPX. If you guys capture that, these are massive SPX trades, guys. You can take some off, I would say, around the 38 to 44 area, because that's a pretty big spot. Slipperman, do you see why I was saying I wouldn't cover here? I hope that you bought back, because that's a really big spot to be breaking, especially at that point in time. The fact that they broke at 236 and 238 is huge. That's what put these expansion odds. And Brendan, you better have caught SPX on that. I'd be pretty disappointed in you if you didn't, because the odds were there, the timing was there, exact price was met. At 2:04 p.m., that gave us all the information we needed. You guys know that? When they broke at 2:04 p.m., that 60, whatever it was, 704.75 or 06.75, that was basically all we had to know to have an idea that we would take out real-time highs. Okay, I'm glad. That was a really good trade break. Definitely some areas to cover though, so just so you guys are aware. I do still have my SPY contracts and some SPX, but the SPY contracts really are the ones that paid off because I picked those up early today at like 25 to 35 cents and they're now almost at $3. That's insane. That's a huge trade. Almost 1,000% on those. And to think I was gonna get up and use the washroom. That's not happening anymore. Opening range could be in play, guys. Obviously, we're going to be a little bit careful with this now, but they definitely have some odds. Where's SPX trading at, Brendan? Hey, where's SPX trading at? $67.14. So maybe they want to get SPX to like 67.20, 67.24. That would make sense, right? Like 67.30, 35. All those areas would make sense for SPX. And it's a Friday, so that's like the best point in time to be getting these kind of breaks by, just ahead of the weekend. How many of you guys think that they could take it back to OR? This is, I did say I would want us back into a channel by today, so like getting back to 67.30s and 40s is great, but The 6750s would be something that I would definitely watch in this area here. Just to kind of see how they end up trading these. Off 4 and 3.9. You guys are the least excited people I've ever seen about a range break like this. There's some odds here, guys, ahead of 3 o'clock, so I just want to see if they can get this over 4-4 by 3. This would be insane. Because that is going to give us odds of maybe getting back to weekly OR, like close to 7-8, but like the previous week. But I was thinking closer to like 5-2, 5-8 if they give us these kind of range breaks. But pretty insane how much range we've already been given. And I still can't believe that those contracts went to almost $3 on even just the SPY. The SPX were obviously crazy, but these ones going to almost $3 is also insane. Wow, very nice. So we have moved 84 points off lows. This was our 88-point target up here. Close to 4344, okay? Just as a reminder, we're approaching 88-point range. Remember, I did say we had odds of not 128 to 132 points, but potentially 100 to 107, 115, like mid-range, basically. And that's only if they can clear the 40s, obviously, and specifically before 330. I feel like would have to be the case if they were going to do something like that. let's just see what happens here. Can I show you guys the contracts here? Too. Just so you guys can see. Can you guys see? Okay, so this, okay, these are the ones I took earlier. This is a pretty big cup and handle though. So like if they break this area here, this is a big gap obviously on the chain. So it makes sense that they stalled around 3, but they did take out this area here. Okay, so I was thinking that maybe they have a bigger gap. This is why I was thinking they could actually get to those 66.50s. It's also based on what I'm seeing on the chain. Do you see it? So I covered half my contracts, but I'm going to leave the other half. Because if they break 4-4, I think, which is that, what did I say it was? 88-point break. And that's also a big calculated area for us in general. Especially if they break it here before 3, then we have some really good odds that they could get us all the way to those. Remember how I said they could maybe not push us 128 to 132 points, but maybe they could give us like 115, 107, those kind of areas here. So it'd be like maybe closer to like these 50s, maybe like 6-6, like, I don't know, back to this area here. So it's just worth noting because if that's the case, it's also a gap fill on some of these SPY and SPX premiums. So just so that you guys are aware, this is the 5-4 stick, right? 5-4 earliest ought to take out highs. They did it final seconds there if you guys were paying attention. Right at 41.50. So that's a pretty big break. XOM getting the range breaks here before 3. I am still holding some of my XOM contracts too, so we'll see if this one gets those breaks of highs. Yeah.
This is creme brulee flavor
Oh wow.
from they who shall not be named. But
Okay.
I got non-fat milk. That's what you like, right?
Yeah. Thank you.
Welcome. Bye.
The actual level, guys, is 6743.50. Just FYI. I know I said 44, but I think the exact area is 4350. So let's just see if it tries triggering that. 4350 being tested here just before 3. See if they can try clearing 44 at 3, though. This is 88 points in range from session lows, which typically when you break 88 points, you can normally get at least 100 points. 96 is usually the next range that we work with, but this is also an annual area of 44. 6744 being tested to the exact spot here before 3 o'clock. This is perfect time and price, you guys. Every single point in the session today was perfect for time and price. This can trigger huge areas here. This can give us odds of getting 5-8, 6-6, 7-1. Can you guys document that, please? Even though they didn't close above, we'll see if they can clear, since they did take out 4-4. And I figured if SPX is around here, then maybe they want SPX back in the 20s. We'll watch the first 5 minutes to follow through, just because these are obviously big areas here. So I would imagine that they'd probably slightly stall, especially 4-4, because that's a very, very big spot. But the cup and handle on the SPY chain is in full force if they actually do try pushing this. I'm not really sure about the SPX contracts. Maybe like the 30s or the 20s might have like some nice structures, but anything that's like out of the money, maybe not. Oh yeah, that 6720s have a really nice cup and handle pattern too. I probably wouldn't go much further than the 40s though. I feel like anything above 40 might be too high. But this is really the area that we're going to see if they actually have the momentum to break it. 4-4 is huge. 4-4 is a big area in general for the index. No, thank you so much, Brace Trader. You're the only person that did, just so you're aware. So I appreciate it. Because these streams do take away from my trades too, guys. Especially doing SPX. I don't usually size as much if I'm streaming. I want to see if they negate this within the first 5 minutes. So ideally if they can break, and what I mean by break is actually close over 4344, okay? So you want to see them like close above, break above, to see if they can get those continuation breaks. I can't believe they actually took it to the channel today though. That is insane that they actually did that. I really hope you guys made money on these trades because they are very big trades. XOM needs these breaks over, I think, that 51 and 60. I was targeting 60 today on this one. I knew it was going to be a late day trade because XOM usually breaks late. I just want to see what time these were though. Pretty sure some of these just passed 54. 306. Can we watch 306 for XOM? Five. Okay. XOM has odds to continue till the close, you guys. XOM has very, 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 very late odds, meaning XOM could probably snap into the close. So I would imagine that XOM could retest 118 probably by end of session today based on some of these intervals. Okay, because a lot of these run till 4. And I would imagine ES would be breaking here too. So XOM has the highest odds within the last 10 minutes of the session close, especially if it breaks highs. Right now at 3:05, 3:06 p.m. These are the earliest points in the day to try taking out these high ranges here. High ranges being 67, where do they stall this? 67, 49 or 50, I think. Let me just set the alert closer to here. So 67, 49. Can someone document XOM with me, please? Because I don't want to forget my other trades too. ES stalling here a little bit around that 304, 305 window. So immediate reductions. I think they did test 44, but then you can see that stall. So they are struggling around that 44 area just a little bit. XOM kind of stalling here a little bit too. I did put a window closer to like 310, but this one has best odds close to end of day. I just wanted to see if they would at least retest that 49 to 50 area at this point in time. Yes, we can look to see if they have immediate negations close to 309. The channel is usually the toughest area to trade in general, just because you could have a lot of back and forth here. Okay, I actually really do have to go to the washroom though, so I'll be right back. I was gonna get up at like 2:20 and then we had our breakout happen, so I didn't want to miss the 2:30 break. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Oh, shoot. What did I just do? Hi, ZK. Oh, thank you. I'm glad you made profit today. Hopefully you learned a lot too. I know making money is fun, but sometimes learning is fun too, you know, because then you can maybe replicate it on your own, which is the most important thing in trading. I wasn't going to stream today, but I figured this could be a really fun session to do live. So especially if they end up holding this area here. I'm pretty shocked that they brought it back to 6744 though. Up until they hit that break at this 20 whatever time it was, 207 or 2, I don't remember, 204 or 206. Then I was like, oh, okay. And then when they broke here at 230, I was like, yes, they took out the full neutral range in one stick, and then they broke highs at that 236 and 238. 238 was an extremely calculated time to take a high of day. And then they had these follow through sticks. Like if they really wanted to stall you guys, they would have stalled 3-1, 3-2. Okay, so the fact that they took out 3-1, 3-2 in one stick. Remember how I was showing you guys earlier those what was it? Those ranges off those daily spots, and how we had these areas here. Where's my these? Remember how we looked at these and we saw that there was overhead at 3-1, 3-2? Right? These spots here. Okay? And these were linked to these weekly stalls, right? So that in itself gave pretty good conviction that they probably don't want to stall here. So we have really good odds of hopefully next week getting back to the channel, because basically what they did is they are making this a doji, which could do what? If they negate this 3-bar continuation down, what kind of setup could we have going into Monday? Which can help us for our flip date on Tuesday. Tuesday's a big flip. So mark the 11th on your charts, because that's a really important day. This is now setting us up to hopefully negate this disgusting 3-bar scenario, because we could have had 4 bars continuing down. So, and I think in order to do that, they definitely have to get it at least back over those 20s like we said. If they can get it over the 40s, this is what could give us the odd of getting back into the channel and going back to the zone. At the very least, this would kind of be the area of overhead. So you can see that there's definitely overhead around 4.3, 4.4, 4.9 and that 5.7. Plus this was also the 88-point break on the session. So there's a lot of confluence here, just to give you guys a very quick recap. And if they can clear this area, this is why it could get pinnable, guys, because this could be a doji. Because we don't have enough time for them to engulf this, I don't think, unless they like fully snap 4.9, 5.7. Like I highly doubt they can engulf this whole session today. That would be pretty hard for them to do unless they come and fully clear this out before like 3:30 or something. Because I think these would be linked to like the 128-point ranges. Yeah, they are. Do you see what I'm saying? So that's from like a range perspective. And then when we looked at it from weekly open, as soon as they took out these spots here, this already set you up for like these areas being broken, you guys, is also going to be 132 to 133 points off weekly open. Just so you're aware, this is why the 50s could come in play. And then like I said, off weekly highs, the big overhead is really just back to that 7.7, 7.6, which is the same thing as getting back to this previous week's opening range and then the closing odds, which is what would set us up for Monday to potentially come back and retrace 68, 22, 25, 33, basically our zone areas, okay? And off of this low high here, I think this is where we said, yeah, if they see how they never even stalled here off these lower highs, okay? So that's very important that they didn't do that. But this is where it could get very heavy. So around 5.2 to 5.7, 5.8, okay? If they break 4.4 to 4.9. So there is a lot of overhead around there too, off these structures and these mid breaks. But how do I explain this? Okay, if you can get breaks above here, it means that you're breaking above mid supply. Does that make sense? So think of it like this. If you break above here, like this is still beneath, okay? Correlate these areas to this, okay? If you break above here, this is still beneath this mid supply. Usually to have like progressive price action, you always want to be above us, like this area, like this zone. So in order to do that, we'd probably have to clear at least that 132 to 128 point break, which is why you'd need this at a minimum, ideally here, 5556. Do you see what I'm saying, you guys? Or not really? These would give us better odds for next week and into mid-month for like OPEX to come back and retest these areas here. Basically an odd of getting back into the zone, like over 6688, because that's what we failed here. And that's the zone that we'd want to get back to retest 6932, 28, whatever the case is. So let me just, so if someone wants to document these 64, 67, 45-ish, huge, 6749, 6752, 6755, 6757 to 6758, probably max range. Only if they can clear these areas in time. Because we wouldn't really want this to go green. Because if they did, what kind of pattern could that be? Like if this went green, let's say they close over here, like over 6364, what kind of pattern would that be? This would actually be the one case scenario where you wouldn't want it to close at core. That could end up setting up for another bear flag like this, right? So we would actually be better off closing a little bit red today. Okay. All right, let's go back here. What time is it? Where's XOM? Okay, let's see if our 318 to 21 odds work in our favor. I didn't mark anything this afternoon. So to get 50s, we probably need to be trading over this 4849, probably by that 330, 336 window. Is this your first time watching me stream? Slipperman, did you get back in? Earlier, when you sold. Where did you sell? Oh, so you sold before. So do you see the logic now though? Like we had extremely high odds to take out 6714, right? Because of those higher structures and the correlation to price, especially at those points in time. And the 66 to 68 point ranges being correlated to that. So like at the very least, you could have waited to see how they acted at 6714, and then from there, you know, like look to see if we get a break of 18 because that was the next overhead, which they did, and then obviously that 2-2, 2-3, and then 2-9 and 3-1. Now would be a trickier spot because they're stalling that. They took out 4-4 but then stalled because there is a little bit of overhead around 4-5, 4-6, and they still have quite a bit of time. And the market definitely doesn't owe us above these areas, obviously, right? So that's what could make this a little bit harder in terms of how we're going to trade into the close today. Those contracts did hit $3, by the way, guys. I got my $3 sell on those. All right, let's do a max range scenario for this session. Max range, highs are in 67.45 to 67.49, 67.51 to 67.53, 67.54 to 67.56, 67.58 plus. I feel like that's probably capped, but you guys can vote on that. Back to XOM here because it's getting very close. Did you guys make sure you covered at least something at 4.42, 4.4? 4.4 is huge. So like that area, you have to take some off here. Like I would understand if you held from here, even off 2.2, 2.3, like that you could definitely hold a little bit here, but off of 4.4, that's such a big area. Okay, so this isn't like a spot that they would easily clear like they would here, here, or here. Okay. Is 88 points off lows enough to be considered a max range for the session today? What do you guys think? I think they actually did hit 89. That was my neck, for anyone wondering. Oh. Oh, thank you for subbing to the Substack. Did you get in the Discord okay? I finally automated it, so you should get an email with the Discord link and then go through that verify process. Make sure you use the email that you're using on Substack though, not Discord, just so that you can gain access to the chat. But thank you so much for subbing to that. By the way, those that are looking to sub to the Substack, effective November 15th, I already announced it in the Discord, but price changes for 2026 will be effective then. I haven't had any changes in price since launch, but like obviously there's been a lot of increases just for subscriptions in general, like TradingView, Adobe, multiple services that we're all using in terms of trading. And I'm already priced in about 35 to 50% lower than most ES contributors. So anyone that's already subscribed, pricing doesn't change. It's just for future price points. So just in case anyone wanted to have the newsletter, I'm changing that on November 15th. So about one more week. I haven't decided yet. I still have to, I want to look at some more contributors just to see like what their price points are to be like relatively competitive, I guess, to what's in market. And then I still have to, I want to calculate my overall expense ratios too. Maybe you guys could give feedback too on that. I obviously don't know every single contributor, but I do know that a lot of people charge for even Discord separate and things like that, which I'm not going to do, but Discord access would still be included in that. But a lot of people have started to segregate Discord from Substack. You too, have a great weekend. Are you done for the day? We could pretty much be capped here now, so we'll see what they do the last half hour. 4-4 is pretty huge, so if they want to stall us here, they definitely can. I probably won't be taking any more trades today unless I see like some end of day setup or something on SPX. Maybe if they give us an auto breaking to 50 or 52 or 58, then I'd look at it, but otherwise I'm just going to manage the last few contracts I have left on that SPY position. Well, and XOM. It's a really big spot. I'd imagine they can probably backtest opening range before 3:30, and then we can look to see if they hold there. Oh, yeah, don't try squeezing more than the market wants to give. 4-4 is pretty big, and even if they do break here, like the issue is like you see how between 3-1 there wasn't any overhead until 4-4. Are you guys listening? Like a break of 67, 14, 18 gave you direct breaks to 2-3, 2-5, 3-1, right? But between 3-1 to 3-3, there was no breaks till 4-4. So you can get that nice push. Whereas here now there's like some overhead at 4-5, some overhead at 4-9, some overhead at 50, some at 5-2, some at 5. Do you get what I'm saying? Usually when that's the case, price can become a little bit sideways, okay? You won't get as clear of breaks as this, but rewatch this stream because that's insane. Like the way that we correlated this point in time to yesterday in price, and the fact that we had 100% odds of clearing these highs here and creating higher highs and taking an opening range was insane. I would have been surprised if they didn't take out 67.14 today. Like that would have shocked me if they stalled. There wasn't really high odds that they would stall. And probably would have been a little bit surprised if they stalled 2-3-50, but I wouldn't have been that surprised if they stalled 3-1 or 3-3. Like if they stalled here, then I'd be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But it made no sense that they would stall here. Okay? So coming up to 4-4 is more than the market needs to give us. If it wants to give us anything more than that, it's just being generous at that point. Okay? So let's see what kind of range breaks we can get back here by the 30 to 33 window, okay? I didn't even ask, how was everyone's day? What did you guys trade, if you did trade? If you didn't trade, what did you at least learn today? I feel like you at least could have learned a few things from the session today. So I would be curious to see what you guys learned. I'm trying my best to be patient on XOM just because I know odds are late and XOM has some crazy range breaks by end of day, but it's taking all the patience out of me to hold these contracts. Just like it took all my patience to hold those calls from yesterday into today. But I'm like, and I'm glad I didn't sell them yesterday because that would have sucked. So I just want to see if they can bring it back over the channel here, back over 3-3 by this 3:30 period, just to see if they put channel odds back in play for like 3-6 to 4-5, 4-8. And we're basically now just monitoring into the close. These are very pinnable ranges for the market. Remember what I said? What's the minimum area I'd like to pin the close? Give me min, give me mid, give me max. So we already knew we had an odd of getting to a minimum of 67, 18, 22 to 32 with odds of 4-4. We had a mid range to 5-2, 5-8, 6-6, and a potential max range to 7-1, 7-8, 8-8. Okay, which didn't really have the best of odds for today, but so for the closing range, what do you think is the minimum, mid, max? Really good range break here back at 3:30. Directly back over this 67.38. We're going to watch the 32 window just to see if they can give us some better range breaks here. Back into the channel. Because we essentially want to see if they can give us that retest of 4-4. And give us maybe a nice cup and handle break here. Come on, you guys. Participate. If I'm streaming all day while monitoring trades, the least you guys can do is at least answer a few questions. What would be the best ranges for us to pin at today? What was the area that I said ideally we want to get back here, at least to close the day? Even if they don't break range, at least to close it there. XO, I'm kind of stalling a little bit here after failing to break high of day. XO had odds close to end of session anyway, so they might just wait. Okay. I guess nobody knows. That's unfortunate. Yeah, over those 20s would be good, right? Like 22, 23, 25. No, I don't think min is the 30s. I think min is probably the 20s. Basically, our support ranges that we talked about. Yeah, ideal would be those 30s, right? Like that's a good area to pin. Like the 33 to 44 area. Best case scenario is probably getting close to that, those 50s. I just don't want this to go too green though, guys, because like we want a nice doji, but if this goes green, then it could set up for a bear pattern too, right? So I feel like getting to those 50s would be good, you know? Okay, let's see here if we can get some retest as early as 136, 138. 138 is, or sorry, my time zone. 338. 338 is also going to be linked to the hourly break when they took out highs here today, and then we had these structure breaks. So maybe we'll just watch this 40 to 41 window since it's the hourly duration post those range breaks that we had here at 39 and 40. Yeah, so ideally 67.20s, midpoint 6731, 6733, 6738, right? 6744 to 6748 is good. A best case would be 6752, 6755, 6758. I don't want us going green, however, okay? That's green, but not green enough. If we're gonna take out 6-4, we better take out 7-1, 7-8. Do you get what I'm saying? So if we can't do that, then we better just sit down and stay still until next week. So I don't really want to get there. That's too high, but not high enough. So keeping it in here could be the best case for us. If they don't want to get us above the 4-4, 4-8 area today, then this could easily become what kind of afternoon for the last half hour. And this is why the next few minutes are very important, because we want to see what our odds are for the last 15 to 30 minutes of the session today. So they're holding exactly 2,350. They tested just above 2,444. Okay, what kind of session is this going into the close? It's so obvious. And these are our exact ranges from the report. This could easily become pinnable. Easily. These are like the big spots from the report. Do we still have odds, though, for them to not make this pinnable and hopefully get us a little bit of more range? So, what did you guys vote? I feel like not many people voted on that last poll. 3 people voted. Come on. 3 people, and there were 70 people watching at that time. Okay, let's do another poll. Range for session real time. Highs are in 67.45 to 67.48. 6750 to 6753. 6754 to 6757. 6758 plus. I'm setting that for 5 minutes. So it definitely makes sense that if they want to make this range break today. Oh, yay, Noble Mom, thank you. I'm so happy for you. Send your email in here, Noble Mom. Maybe some people wouldn't mind getting you a coffee or helping with groceries or whatever the case is. I know you had a really bad week with life. So I'm glad you had some winning trades. So this is the window I want to watch for, because this is more correlated to the opening range break here. So let's see what they do. 32. 49. Hi, Adam. Look at how much range we broke. We hit that 67.44 hit. And okay, I'm gonna focus a little bit here, guys, just because they can move fast if they do decide to break. Especially off this 40-41. These have the best odds. I basically want to see if they retest 4-4 though by the 4-5 window just before like the final 15 minutes of the session. But if they can do it during 40-41, that can help us break the channel, because there is the issue here is there's still some overhead around 4-4, or sorry, 4-8, 4-9. So we'll see what they do. Okay. We have to track where they stall here too, because these are still important points here in the day. Okay, let's measure this reduction stick. That's pretty much what I thought. This is still an area of overhead close to like this 4-5. What else could they be doing here, guys? If they took it back to 2-3, 2-2 and held. So I know they took out opening range by a little bit, but it was 67, 22, 50. That was more important to hold. So they're holding 6-7, 2-2. They broke 6-7, 4-4. They're consolidating now in between. They brought it back to the channel above 3-3 by 3:30. Pay attention. Okay, they still tested 40-41 off that 39-4-1 stick. If they can break by 3:45 p.m. or retest highs, why do you think they would wait that late to do it by? What do you guys think? Market could be setting up for another move here, guys, late day. ES or SPX story, I figured maybe 67, 22, 23. Well, it's not necessarily to expand. It's more because those could be max ranges for the session today. And if they would have broke as early as this, like during this period, so that you see how they brought it down 22 points, kind of like what they did earlier, right? If they would have kept going, that could have brought us to 6.6. And that's remember how I said we don't really want it going to 6.4, 6.6 if they can't bring it that high. Like, you don't want it going there if it's not going to get high enough. Remember back here, they also did the same thing, 22 points. Do you see the correlation here? We've had a lot of reductions today of roughly like 22 to 20 points. Do you see it? And they did it a few times, not just once. Okay, but pay attention. They did this because had they broke back here, they could have broken earlier, maybe stalled 10. Okay, they would have hit 2.8 here, but they might. Do you see how this could have given us odds of getting back to the zone today? I just want you guys to see it. Do you see it? These are the reductions that we had, but it could also be based on them knowing that maybe they don't have the momentum to get it over 6.6 to get it to 8.8, because we don't really want to stall 6.6, 6.8, right? So they might just reduce the range just a tiny bit, just so that we're not stalling or staying stuck, right? Or going a little too high too fast and not high enough. So maybe they know that the 50s could be max for the session, right? Or maybe, considering this, we might have an odd of like 6.4, 6.6, but 67.45.25 was calculated, and they're breaking here on time, so we'll see if they can clear 4.4 before 350, ideally around 348. This 350 stick, guys, is what could trigger these areas. These are also past calculated ranges from before, so just keep this in mind. I have my notes on here from previous sessions if you guys need them, but today's reductions are correlated to 6, 7, 8, 8, just for FYI, for reference, okay? They've been roughly 22 points. And 88 plus 22 is 110 points, right? Didn't I say if we break 88 points, maybe they give us roughly 100 to 107, 110 points? How many people here think that they're going to break this? I think that's XOM breaking, right? Oh, it's getting close. But do you guys see how heavy the 4445 is? I want you guys to understand the confluence here too, not just have a price target. Like, know the reason why it's stalling so heavily here, because market knows how much range it could trigger off these areas. These areas can trigger it all the way back to 67.88. Do you get what I'm saying? I'm just going to set these. I don't know if they're going to trigger, but we'll set them for the last 10 minutes. Because I'm already aware that market, if it wants to stall these 40s, it definitely can. Okay. And XOM's odds were the last 10 minutes of the session today, so I'm really curious to see what that one does. Okay, let's start watching this with nothing here. So that you can already see this reduction stick that they had to at 41. So I can see that they're already trying to limit the range. I don't know, the 2-2-2-3 hold was good, so I really hope they don't bring it down at least. Like, hopefully they can at least hold the line, even if they don't want to take out highs. I just want this one to hit our target today, too. All right, we've got a minute here for 350 coming up. So far, they're stalling 4-4. They did close back over it, which is good. And they took out 4-5, but stalling here, so they definitely want to pin the close. Doesn't necessarily mean that there isn't odds of range heading here, but just be careful because they could start implying some volatility, especially with like a stick break back to 3-3. So you guys voted for 4-5, 4-8, and then was tied with 5-4, 5-7. So that's interesting. Maybe they take it then in between to 5-2 or something, or 5-1. We have to see if this 350 stick immediately defends this 3-1, 3-2 area though, okay? So 350 would have to immediately defend. You'd have to see some follow through here. And then if they want to keep this range tight, they'll probably keep it between the 354 to 355 odds. 350 holding the line at 6730.75, which was that really important spot around 6731, which can give an odd of retesting 674445 by 354, 355. If they test as early as 351, it'll open up the window to push before 354.55, okay, which would be trying to test the top of the channel here. Okay, let me focus in on my trades, guys, into the close because I have some positions I have to close out. We had odds here at 54, 55, so let's see what they do. XOM had an odd at 55 in terms of breaking high of day. This one had its odds for the final 5 minutes of the session today, so I am pretty interested to see what this one does too. ES tested 4-5 and then stalled, so we'll see if 5-5 can take out some range here. There's a lot of overhead in between. There's the 4-5 break here at 5-5. They could be setting this up for the final 5 minutes, like I said. Now the SPY contracts are in the gap here that I showed you guys earlier in terms of that cup and handle break, which means testing 4-7, 4-8 on ES. This should be testing now 2-3, 2-4 on SPX like we talked about earlier. This is exactly where we want SPX to be. That's why I was saying I don't think I would do more than like 67.30 on SPX, just because if they don't break the 2-2 to 2-5, then it might be harder to see some real structure breaks. Really clean breaks here on SPY. Three minutes to go. $48.75 being tested here. So my thoughts were they hit highs end of day with odds of getting 5-2 to 5-5, 5-8. 5-5, I think, or 5-4-7-5 was the most calculated. If they actually can break the channel here in time, I feel like they'd have to take out 4-9 and 50 probably by the 5-7 stick for that to even be a probability. But we'll see. And based on your guesses, you guys had a tie between 4-5 and 4-8 and 5-5 and 5-8, so maybe they take it to like 5-1, 5-4, like right in between or something. So let's see if they can clear the channel off this 5-7 stick over 50. Give me your close. Give me your 359 stick. Hurry. What do you guys think? I'm thinking if they can clear here right now, maybe they can get to this area here. This would have given some pretty decent end of day trades too on the index. If you caught any of that. The SPY gap is fully filling here now too. On SPY. There's the 51. I figured 5-1, 5-2. We'll see. That cup and handle break here. The contract's already 370 now. That is insane. Those are from 25 to 40 cent entries on those. And I left just a few runners just for end of session because we had some of those odds. 67.20s to 30s is what I had said you could look at. I wouldn't probably go much more over that. There we go. 5-2 being taken out. I'm thinking close to this area here. Max ranges for the session. I think they're going to hit them. This is getting super close. XOM unfortunately had a bit of a sell-off into the close. Not really the best in terms of range, but at least they were able to like partially get it back there. Let's see what ES does here into the close. 5275 being tested. 30 seconds to go. I had a max of $4 on these contracts. They're hitting 380 here, 385. That is insane that they are actually bringing it to that the 5.3 to 5.4 spot. That is crazy. Right in between. And remember what I said? 5.5, 5.450, 5.550 was the most calculated. Like, it wasn't exactly 5.7, 5.8. It was closer to like 5.4, 5.5. Kind of in between here. And look what they're doing here for 4 o'clock. They'll probably bring this right to this 5.7, 5.8 into the close. Insane session today for the index. Really good session to go back and study from. They held 67.23. Which gave us a good odd of getting 5.2, 5.8. 56.75 being tested here. The actual area is closer to 5.6, 5.7, but 5.8 would be like an overhead. And again, this is closer to these ranges here. Okay, so if you're looking at it from these midpoints, these are the 128 point breaks. It's close to like 5.6-ish. Okay, like this area here. Do you see it? That's exactly where we want this pin, guys, into the weekend. This is exactly where we want this pinned into the weekend. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. We hit the exact target, guys. That is crazy. 67, 56, 50 for 4 p.m. And then we stalled right around these areas here. I don't want this too high, though. So if they can't get this over... If they can't get this over 6.6, 6.8, then we're better off kind of just staying stuck down here, because we don't want this going green if they can't reset for next week. Like, I'd rather this stay slightly red, unless they can bring it up to, like, obviously, you know, like 7.8 or 8.8, but generally speaking, this is good enough to give us some decent odds heading into next week. If you still have some SPY contracts, which I left because we had those good odds for after the bell, then you can easily take some off here. Thank you so much for all the subs and all the gifts today, guys. Thank you. And thank you for the raid. I really appreciate that. Those contracts, by the way, are now almost $5, by the way. $5 on those contracts, which is crazy, from 30 cents. That is nuts. They actually filled that full break. Remember how I was saying that we have like this really nice... SPX had to get back to basically 67.23 into the close, which would be the equivalent of this. So if I show you guys this... Okay, this was the kind of range. They already had broken this early. After hours right now, they're hitting pretty close to almost $5. So this was a really nice cup and handle break on these contracts, if anyone decided to trade that with me up to 5.8. Anyway, I'm going to sign off for the weekend. Thank you guys so much for the subs, for the tips, for tuning in. Thank you, Jay, for the raid, too. I'll make sure to follow you if I'm not already. But anyway, you guys have a good weekend, and I'll see you guys on Sunday.